Okay, I hope that everyone can see me and hear me. We are starting, and thank you so much, everyone who sent me your resumes. It was more than what I even expected, and unfortunately, more than what I can actually go over today. But I'm going to try to squeeze in 3. Okay, so I'll do a really quick intro, and we're going to dive right in. So real quick about me, I'm a military brat. I have not served myself. I like to think that I have one foot in the military world and one foot in the civilian world. So when I see information come in that I'm like, I don't understand what they're saying, I know how to take that and translate it. I'm also a wife and a mom of 2 little girls, and we're building a crazy Earthship hempcrete house. It's basically a tire house. If you want to learn more about that, that's my main passion. I've been doing resume writing for the last 15 years, 10 of which have been specifically focused on military and veterans. And now I'm a certified veteran resume writing specialist and a certified professional resume writer, so CPRW and CVSC. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into the first resume. So just let me share my screen with you. Also, I want to know, first of all, where you're from. If you're joining us live, I want to know what your burning questions are. So if, like, as I'm going through this, if you're like, oh my gosh, I need to know this specific question, please go ahead and drop it in the comments, which I can see. So I would love to get your comments and give you feedback. We'll also do a Q&A at the very end. Okay, so let me share my screen. I'm just going to share my entire screen here. Okay. Okay, so this first resume, it probably looks familiar to a lot of you. It is the typical standard resume template that you see with most veteran nonprofits that we've seen for the last about 10 years. So it is a pretty standard template. We're not as worried about the visual aspect as we are the content. Content is king. But visual appeal, I'd like to think, is queen, because when a recruiter is scanning resumes, we want to make it extremely easy for them to pick up right off the bat, why are you a good candidate for this specific role? So I like to have you lose the summary. Everyone knows this is a professional summary. So instead of that, let me actually show you just like a sample here of what I like to do. So have a header. You can have a header and you can have a subheader too. So that this header for a master resume, when you're not targeting any one specific job, can be a little bit more broad. But when you're applying for a specific role, I would change that to the exact role you're targeting. And you can even say target role and list it off exactly, because then when someone looks at your resume, they're going to instantly know that you are applying for their job and associate you with the exact job they're hiring for. So biggest tip right off the bat, lose that professional summary. The next thing, I do like that there's some quantifiables here. So numbers, dollar amounts, they really stand out. I like to highlight it just a little bit more by bolding those metrics so that when someone's quickly scanning, they can pick up on those metrics right away. The thing that I see that could be added is, so workforce program impacting thousands of employees and stakeholders. So is that like 1,000 or is that like 5,000? I would want to know the specific number, or as close as you can get would be great. So I can't tell right off the bat what this individual is targeting. Executive personnel and organizational readiness manager. Okay. And that's the thing too with military titles. Like if you are a senior enlisted leader, there's about 10 different jobs that would be applicable for you. So I just heard you're not seeing the specific resume. You should see the one on the right. Hopefully it will come up here in a second. If not, I have Chelsea here helping me out, making sure that everything goes smoothly on the tech end. But I'm just going to keep going and let me know if it's not showing up. Okay, so let's see. Diving in to the actual meat of the resume. So I like to think of the resume like a 3-course meal, and that top section is like your appetizer. You need to have recruiters be interested enough in that top third, in that appetizer, to want to continue on with the meal, to continue on down, because again, they're just scanning really quickly. And job titles is a big thing they scan for. So back to what I was talking about before with your military title not being directly translated into any one specific position, that gives you some flexibility. A senior enlisted leader, like 10 different titles. They could be an operations manager, depending on how many people that they oversaw and how much in assets and operations budget. They could also be considered a director of operations. They could be considered an HR manager, a logistics manager. There's just a lot of different title options. So you want to make sure that you match up your title to the position that you're applying to if it's relevant. So you wouldn't want to apply for like a financial analyst if you haven't done any financial analysis, right? We want to make sure that those job titles are appropriate. And that's where it does help to talk to a human being, talk to people in that field, and find out if that would be an appropriate title to switch to. Okay. As far as like military language, this is actually really pretty good. I don't see a whole lot of acronym soup here, so that kudos to you on that. What I am seeing is kind of a bullet point overload, and I don't really know where to look first. So that's where the strategic bolding comes in. Also, I more recently have been breaking up bullet points under subheaders. So like, for example, we could have like organizational leadership, about 2 bullet points related to that. Facility or project management, and then have a couple bullet points related to that, just to make it more digestible. Another small thing is make sure that you put, instead of October 2023, if you could put the numerical value for the month, just because there's some ATS systems that are a little finicky there. And I'm going to go through the rest of this pretty quick because it actually looks really pretty good. The biggest thing is like the titles and making sure that they match up to the positions that you're wanting to target. Bold those quantifiables, change the months to a numerical value, and then also break up the education versus the certifications. Those need to be 2 separate headers, especially for applicant tracking systems. It's going to try to pull that all into education and it'll be a mess. So education certifications, let's separate that. Okay, I'm going to go over the next one. So another, just imagine yourself in the seat of a recruiter of like always seeing these templates. It's good to be distinct if you can be. So I'll give you some ideas for that here at the end. Okay, so same thing here. I love that you have a headline. Do tailor it to the exact position you're targeting. Large scale multi-site programs. There's tons that we can add here. So large scale, how large? What was the area of operations that you were in? You can give states, countries, geographical regions. I know for like Indo-PACOM, I always like to mention that represents 50% of the world's population. So that's a metric that you can add. Multi-site programs, how many sites, how much in assets. I want to have workforce planning for how many personnel. I'm always looking for how can we quantify? How can we make it results driven? How many cross-functional team members and how many functions you could also include, like how many MOSs. And then I love career highlights. I think those always look good. You can also incorporate them into the summary, but this is a lot, so this might be too much to do there. I want to get this guy off the screen. Oh well, okay. So site lead operations manager. So I'm thinking right off the bat, operations manager. So if that's what you're targeting, stick with it. Kill responsible for, you can just start with leading. Again, how many sites, how many personnel, how much in assets. I would lose the mission execution. Operational readiness. You can also include like what your operational readiness percentage is. You could even maybe do what percentage compliant you were. Workforce planning for how many people, how much in resources. Okay, there we go. It's right. Okay, so we do have $17.3 million program. Okay, that's good. 75 personnel. So I think that's duplicate info. I would just want to plug that into that top section because this doesn't really mean anything, but the quantifiables absolutely do. 0 incident outcome, I would bold that. Process improvement that strengthened operational workflows, accountability, and mission readiness. I talked about the mission readiness, how many teams, all of that. Give civilians an idea of how big CENTCOM is and how big AFRICOM is. Lose mission critical, just operations in a global environment. What type of systems you've managed, how much in personnel. Okay, so again, it's right below. It's just we're reading from top to bottom, so we need that most important information right there in that first paragraph. Okay. I feel like already I'm taking too long on each one of these. Okay. Workforce strategy, operational analysis, large-scale intelligence and operational initiatives, partnered with senior leadership. So give people an idea. Most civilians at least know like what a general officer is. So if it was like a colonel, general officer, we might want to say like C-suite leadership or senior leadership, kind of give them an idea. How much in resource allocation, workforce planning for how many personnel, how many people training. Okay, 1.5. Okay, there it is. I just always, so we're used to front loading. I always front load the metric so that it's right there, easy to scan right off the bat. And I don't necessarily think you need to have like your squadron listed. If it's like at the Pentagon, I would probably include that in the description. Okay. Okay. Education, clearance, language. That's a huge one. A lot of people miss this, and that really does set you apart if you speak another language. Give me a little bit stronger idea of, are you native? Are you intermediate? Are you conversational? In each of these. Flight hours, I would probably lose unless you're targeting positions that are in aviation. And I almost think with enough, it's okay to be on 2 pages, but I almost think you could probably squeeze this onto 1 page and just make it really streamlined. If you need some help with that, I do think it's hard to edit your own experience. It really does help to have someone with that 30,000 foot view that's looking at things and can easily edit. Yeah, okay. Got one more I really want to get to. Okay. And again, I hope it's helpful to have that resume on the left just so you can see. And I will be hopping back to the comments here in a second. So if you have comments, just know I'll get to that in like 3 minutes. Okay. So over executive manager, I would say 23 plus, just to make it shorter. We don't use like of, by, for, the, and definitely don't use I in your resume. Trying to make it as concise as possible. I would also want to know, so program, project, and team management. So how many personnel or employees on that team? What's the largest project or program that you've managed? Put that in that top third, because this is your career highlights, and you can pull all of your best metrics from your experience into that career highlights or summary of qualifications section. And then, of course, if you're targeting something with an active secret clearance requested, include it. If you're targeting something completely private sector, I would lose it. Okay, so a few too many titles, and it's okay again for like a master resume to keep it more broad, but I would definitely pick one specific title once you're applying for a specific position. And if you need help like figuring that out, I think that can be the trickiest part, and it would take a conversation to find out what you're targeting to figure out how to title you, um, title that role. You're many things. I know you've worn many, many hats, and that's the trickiest part is like, which hat do you actually want to put on in this next phase of your career? And just know you can try them on. You can try different things. You're not committed or locked down to any one specific role. If you don't like it, if you feel like you'd be a better fit, somewhere else, obviously it's good to have that information off the bat, and doing that informational interviewing, talking to people that are in that role will really help you narrow it down. But you have flexibility now. You're not locked into any one role. Okay, so this is huge. 245 employees. I would absolutely want to bold that. How much in payroll? How much in travel? I'd also want to know a little bit more about the personnel actions. What does that entail? I would break up this bullet point. We really don't want to go more than like 2 lines on a bullet. But this would be just to start a new bullet. So easy. Achieved 100% completion for 426 graduates, meeting all training requirements. Integrity. How many instructors? Also, I feel like this doesn't really cover like what you're training on. Like, is it leadership development? Well, it says technical training, but you want that to be really clear. If it's aviation technical training, what type of courses, give them just a little smidge more. Again, I don't necessarily think you need to include your squadron, but if you're applying for a government contractor role where people are a little bit more familiar with the military lingo and different squadrons and groups, then you could include it. Okay, 220 personnel. So start with that great metric. Same here. So increased technician qualification 37% in that first sentence, in that first few words, by leveraging deep knowledge of maintenance program requirements. Still might tweak that bullet point a little bit more. Ensuring compliance to industry standards. What percentage compliance would be great? Yeah, and really this is definitely quality assurance management. If you're not targeting like maintenance, I would lose that and just focus on the quality assurance manager. I do think this is where it would be helpful to have, and I don't let me open this up all the way, to have a couple different subheaders that break down like project management and then quality assurance, couple bullet points there. If there's any specific type of systems you're using that civilians would also use, I would include that system name. Yeah, I would be really interested to go through your evals and just see what else I can pull from them, because I just feel like there's something missing from this. How much in assets and supply? How many staff? All of that. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here soon. So typically we have key skills at the top, and that's definitely a section you want to tailor depending on the role, and make sure that you don't just have the key skills listed. I know a lot of folks, and I'm sure when we talk to Kathleen next week, I can't believe how long this has been going on, that people take the key skills, put it in their resume, make it all white, try to sneak in past the recruiters. That does not work. Absolutely. And a question for Kathleen when we talk to her, which will be next Tuesday, by the way. She is incredible CEO of an executive staffing company. So we want to hop on for that one. That's going to be really big to talk to her. She'll probably laugh if I bring that up. Okay, education, criminal justice, that's all good. I would typically say just lose the date. If it's past 10 years, you don't really necessarily need to have the date there. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing so I can look at the comments because that's what this is really all about. Okay. Oh no, screen is frozen. Of course. Okay, I really hope that you guys were able to catch up on this. Okay. Oscar in Puerto Rico. That's incredible. We got Daniel. Hey, Daniel. I'm going to message you later today. I really, really hope the screen unfroze. Okay, so it was fine as of 10 minutes later. I'm sure everyone dropped off after that. But you can rewatch this, so hopefully it pops up. If you do have any burning questions, now is definitely the time. I would love to answer any specifics that you might have, and we can go from there. Good. I know a common question that people have, especially when you have so much lead time leading up to transitioning out, is like, when should I actually start applying? I typically recommend like 4 to 6 months beforehand. If it's federal, definitely apply early. If it's a private sector role, you can start building those relationships, start asking those questions, start making a list of the specific companies you want to target and roles that you're interested in. Keep a pulse on the market, keep a pulse on LinkedIn and how frequently you're seeing jobs opening, what their hiring rate looks like, and talk to other veterans, because veterans help veterans and you have just such a great community and support behind you. You want to leverage that as much as possible. Okay. I'm glad you could see some of it, Oscar. I'm on a good Wi-Fi, so I just have to figure out what the deal is with that. Glad it got better, but that's frustrating. I'll have to go back and watch. Any other questions I can help with? Okay. I did mention I definitely, for anyone who is interested in having a more in-depth resume review, I do have that as an option, and I'm doing it 50% off right now. So let me just drop that link in case you want some extra help. Okay. Oh, I can't post comments on LinkedIn. Okay. I'll have to share. So why are we still getting overlooked? I think the biggest thing is making sure you're applying for roles that you're not overqualified or underqualified for. So like I was looking at a job tracking sheet yesterday from it wasn't a client, but just someone I was trying to help out there. And what I noticed is that they were applying for roles that were like way below and way above. And even though they were tailoring their resume to the role, you really want to make sure it's on target. And I think that does, again, take some conversations with people who are on the other side of like, what am I actually qualified for? That absolutely takes a conversation to be able to do that. So good question, Oscar. I know the job market is also tough right now, and we can absolutely talk to Kathleen about that, and the fact that it's, if you look on LinkedIn, you will see hundreds of applicants within sometimes a couple hours. So you really have to be on it. Make sure that you are not applying for a job 3 weeks later. I wouldn't even bother unless you're going to contact the person directly and make sure that they're even still hiring for the role. Again, something to talk with Kathleen and Chelsea about. The fact that it's just, they get so many applicants, and if you're applying 3 weeks later, like they have to fill those jobs typically pretty quickly. So be on it, keep a pulse on the market. It is a tough market. Just know have a support buddy, and you're not the only one at all. So keep strong, try to keep that PMA, positive mental attitude. And if you need support, of course, please reach out. And as far as recruiters not reaching back with feedback, I would not expect them to do that. That is not their job, and that recruiters work for the companies, and that's something we can talk about more next week. A lot of job seekers kind of assume that they work for them. Even headhunters, they're working and paid for by the companies. So if you want feedback, I would not expect that to come from recruiters. That's when you might want to reach out to a career advisor, resume writer, someone who you will have to pay for their time, but I wouldn't expect feedback from recruiters right now. They're just too busy. Okay, but yeah, stay strong, Oscar. You got this. Let's definitely talk offline and go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream because oh my gosh, I'm 5 minutes early. Please, any feedback that you have, I would love to hear it. Please feel free to send me a personal message. I'm really excited to talk to Kathleen next week. And in fact, let me also drop that link so that you can hop on that, because getting her feedback is going to be incredible. Yeah, the only issue I have with this platform is I want to be able to talk to you all, and I think that there's a way to do that. I just need to figure out how. So I'm gonna invite, we'll go ahead and drop that link. Or Chelsea, if you want to do that, there's the link. That would be great. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all so much for this last minute LinkedIn Live. I hope you found it helpful and hope to see you all next Tuesday, 10 a.m., same time, same place. See you soon. Bye-bye.